All right, welcome to the big picture.
Woo.
It is Thursday.
It is Thursday.
All right, we're almost to Friday. I love it.
Yeah.
How you doing this morning?
Good if it wasn't for the prices at the gas station.
I know. Let's get into it. I have the AAA website pulled up there.
Yeah, it's
gas rose last
wild.
night 24 cents in Ohio. That's a lot. And we are 16 cents over the national average right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the national average for a gallon of gas is $4.30. In Ohio, we are at $4.46.
$4.46. Franklin County's at $4.52 right now. Licking $4.56. You go up to Delaware County $4.39. But even yesterday, just driving,
Where were you driving and you saw really high gas prices, right?
Yeah, the BP at the corner of 5th and Riverside was at $4.99, and the BP at the corner of High and Greenlawn. So, I mean, you've got both the north, well, I wouldn't consider 5th and Riverside the north side. You're almost downtown. But the south side at $5. So, I mean, and you've kind of seen this trickle down. I think the speedways are now at like $5 in Columbus as well. So, I mean, it's just... we were talking about this before, like
when we started driving back in the day, it was like the average for gas was around $4, and that was kind of what we thought was normal. But within the last couple of years, we've like really been given the treat of lower gas.
Yeah,
and now it's kind of back to like it was in high school. We were using all of our paychecks to pay for our gas.
Yeah, because I mean, we started driving at like peak recession time, and that was back when the price of a barrel of oil hit its highest ever at like $146 a barrel. And what we're at
123 a barrel.
Yeah.
And before the war started with Iran, it was $70 a barrel. So huge spike. And honestly, we spoke with Gas Buddy yesterday. They don't foresee this getting any better anytime soon. So if you go to the gas station this morning and you need to fill up, or later this afternoon, just know if you wait any longer, it may cost you more in a couple days.
I did check my Sam's app, and the app says at least right now it's still $4.29 over at the Sam's, I think, in Hilliard. Okay, and I'm like, I'm at half a tank. Okay, so I'm half tempted to make a run over there, but
the reason why I get gas at Costco though is because you get the cash back, whatever,
the points or whatever,
the points, and that makes it feel somewhat worth it. But I'm kind of like you. I'm like, I'm only going to get my gas at Costco or like Sam's Club. So it kind of is worth it instead of just paying an arm and a leg.
Except Sam's is raising the membership cost.
Really?
By $10. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it's going from $60 a year, or $40 to $50.
Come to the dark side. Come to Costco.
Costco's are so far away.
Come to the dark side. Go to the one at Easton.
Yeah. Easton feels like, and I don't even live that far away from it, but it feels like another planet.
It really does.
It's so far away. I don't know. And even when I lived in Dublin, I never went because I was like, it's so far away.
From Dublin for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I am arguably probably farther away now.
Maybe.
Because I'm just in Grandview Heights, so
yeah, that's not that bad.
Right.
I feel like I'm like a 15-minute drive. But I want to get to the record.
Yes.
The record highest.
What we're actually talking about today.
No, I want to get to the highest record average price for the gas. At June 9th of 2022, the highest for unleaded was $5.06. So
right,
we might be on track to that.
Michael
we
Barron's
haven't reached
and I were
it yet.
Yeah, just talking about that of like right when the war in Ukraine started. That's when we saw that gas like blast past $5 in places. Yeah, I was still in Iowa at that time. I don't know. I can't remember if we ever crossed the $5 mark there.
I know when I lived in Alabama years ago, we never did there. It's so interesting how regional it can be. And actually, Jay Fox from the Ohio News Network, he's going to get more into the bottlenecking of everything that's happening with the gas prices.
He'll be joining us in about 10 minutes. But let's get to the things, the big news there was from overnight. Well, I guess it wasn't overnight. It was yesterday evening.
At 7:30 yesterday evening. There was an officer-involved shooting. It happened during a traffic stop, and the suspect, male, died. And we know as of 7 this morning, the officer that was involved in this, he was injured, but he just got out of surgery, and he's at Grant Medical Center right now. And if you've driven by Grant this morning, or if you work in that area, you've probably seen a dozen of Columbus police cruisers lined up outside of there. They're just, kind of waiting for their coworker to get out of there.
Right. So that was all according to Brian Steele, who is the president of FOP Lodge 9. It's the police union. And he said, that officer is now in recovery. So how this all kind of went down, according to police, what we heard last night, was that officers trying to do a traffic stop on a vehicle roughly around Hamilton and Minnesota Avenues there in South Linden. This was about 7:20 yesterday evening. And then they say the man ran from them or, drove away from them.
Right. They exited out of their cruisers to approach the vehicle. Then the man started shooting at them.
When they found, so they basically followed this car up and about 1.5 miles away. And when they got out so now we're at the intersections of East 16th and Hamilton Avenues. So this is where this happened that, the officers got out of the cruiser and that man, reportedly took out a firearm and fired off a few shots. Then in turn, that's when the officers returned fire. But we do know one officer was hit. We don't know who that officer is. We don't know male or female officer.
And we don't know their complete condition. Yeah, like how bad they were injured. But we will have there's a live press conference that's going to get underway at 9:30. So in the next 30 minutes or so, we do have a crew on their way there. So we'll try to take that live once that gets started. But I want to play this soundbite from Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant. She put it very bluntly and said it seemed like this suspect wanted to kill the officer.
I am extremely very saddened by this incident, and I'm mad. I'm mad because our officers go out here every single day to serve and protect, and this incident is just a reminder of the dangers that officers face every single day. There's no doubt in my mind that what I know, that this suspect meant to kill this officer. And so I'm very appreciative that the officers were able to get this officer here to the hospital.
And the Fraternal Order of Police President Brian Steele, he outlined for us what the feeling was inside the hallways of Grant Medical Center.
Yeah. When you walk in there and you see officers crying, hugging each other, praying, it hits home. That is the reality, and everybody in this city has to understand that is the dangers they face.
Yeah, they are the thin blue line.
So go ahead.
No, you're.
Oh, I was going to say, so both, so in a kind of an uncommonality of this situation, we know that the officer was taken to Grant by fellow officers instead of being transported by ambulance, was taken to Grant. We also know the man who was shot and killed was taken to Grant. That is
not typical.
Not typical. Typically, we try to separate the facilities. It's a safety measure to make sure that nothing escalates, whether out of retaliation, et cetera. We try to keep those separate, and that's something that Police Chief Bryant also mentioned last night. They're kind of looking into the policies of that. And
I also want to cue up the sound from a bystander lived near East 16th and Hamilton Avenue about what he heard play out.
It's crazy. It's not the first time you hear gunshots.
Yeah, not the first time in that area.
Right. So, and obviously, Ohio, the Bureau of Criminal Investigations will likely be called in this. They typically are always called in anytime an officer fires their weapon. They take the part of an unbiased investigative unit because you don't want your own agency investigating your own people.
Standard protocol.
It's standard protocol. They always do. So a report, though, that came out last year from AG Yost's office. So BCI is operated under the Attorney General's office. Since 2020, BCI averages about 63 of these officer-involved incidents that they have to investigate every year.
That's I don't know how high that number is compared to other things, but I do know like traffic stops and any domestic violence calls, those end up oftentimes being the most dangerous calls that our officers have to respond to.
Right, because you're walking really into a blind situation.
Exactly.
On that.
You don't know who you're approaching.
Right. Now, Columbus has leaned on BCI quite a bit in recent years. So this was a report that I covered back in 2024, and this is talking about the year 2023, that Columbus requested the Bureau of Criminal Investigations for officer-involved shootings more than any other agency in the state for 2023. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So they requested BCI's assistance a total of 11 times for all. I think there were 53 times that BCI had to investigate one of these that year. But in all, Columbus was 11 of Franklin County's 13 requests. So the number 2 and 3 agencies in the state for that was Ohio State Highway Patrol and Canton Police. Both of them had 3.
Okay.
So we jumped from 3 to 11.
And that puts it in perspective, that 63 number.
Yeah, but we're also talking that Columbus is a huge agency. You know, they have a lot of ground. Because, I mean, Cleveland, it's so broken up because, I mean, Cleveland proper is not that big, but you've got the whole metro area that runs each of their own police departments. So
yeah, Columbus Police, they have their hands full, that's for sure. So again, that press conference will get underway at 9:30, and we will take that live, and hopefully we hear some positive updates about that officer's condition at Grant Medical. Okay, let's day 6 of the Jason Meade trial, the former Franklin County Sheriff's deputy who's been charged with murder relating to the 2020 shooting death of Casey Goodson Jr. We've been going into this throughout the week. This is going to be another long retrial. We're anticipating it should carry on for another 2 more weeks. But let's go back to yesterday, day 5. Jurors heard from Meade for the very first time in his own words. And a special detective read Meade's statement that he wrote after the incident with Goodson. So that was the very first time the jurors, kind of just heard the voice or like the voice inside of Jason Meade's head right after the time of that incident. The coroner also testified yesterday describing that Casey Goodson was shot in the back 6 times. The defense was giving a demonstration. They were trying to explain how Goodson could have been turning around in that moment. But again, the coroner testifying saying that he was shot in the back 6 times. Now, let's pull up the sound from the special detective that read the statement from Officer Meade.
The vehicle stopped to wait?
The vehicle stopped. It didn't stop, did it?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
For the northbound traffic to clear.
Stop there. Was there northbound traffic when Casey was in the intersection?
No. As it did so, I saw the driver had a black handgun with an extended magazine in his right hand.
You did recover a gun at the scene, is that correct?
That's correct. I yelled, U.S. Marshals, it's the police, repeatedly yelled, show me your hands. The suspect ignored my commands, however. I kept my rifle trained on the suspect, and I quickly moved northeast towards the gate. As I did so, the suspect appeared to be trying to open the main door. I could not see the suspect's hands as his back was to me, and the storm door was resting against his body.
Yeah, so you can see that's a very detailed statement from Deputy Meade, excuse me. I'm thinking about Columbus Police on my head. And then there was also a forensic expert that testified as well. And the forensic expert went into, the defense was trying to ask him about a photo of Casey Goodson, and he kind of explain that photo. So listen to this.
Now you can tell that that person is in a car, right? Because you can see the headrest up here, correct?
Yes.
The gun is being pointed at something, correct?
Yes.
That's not gun safety, right?
Again, I don't know the circumstances of that. I don't know what he's pointing it at. For me personally, that is not how I would handle a firearm.
So there was also a warrant issued that we learned yesterday for a neighbor who testified in the very first trial for Jason Meade. Her name is Sheila Stanford, and she has not been answering the subpoenas from the court, and they literally don't know where she is. So they now have a warrant out for her to come and retestify.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And again, here's a look at the courtroom.
Right, that's Jason Meade
right
there.
Looks like day 6 is about to get underway.
So obviously we're going to keep kind of keeping tabs on that, what goes on there. Like I said, this is a live picture from inside that courtroom. We'll continue following this throughout the morning, but with all of that being said, Jay Fox from the Ohio News Network is going to join us talking about some big stories going on around the state.
Yeah, we'll be right back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to The Big Picture. Jay Fox with the Ohio News Network joining us now. Happy Thursday.
Good Thursday and good last day of April to both of you.
I know. May 1st is tomorrow.
It's a cold end of April.
I know. It is
Notice
chilly
I'm wearing
outside.
flannel again.
It's very cold.
I've had enough.
All right. Well, let's get into your topics today. We're talking about the Supreme Court, TPS status, temporary protection status for immigrants. We have a lot of them here in Ohio, Springfield specifically. How many?
So in Ohio in total, this matter affects 45,000 Haitians and almost 1,000 Syrians.
Wow.
And we know nationwide the numbers in the hundreds of thousands.
So what did the Supreme Court decide or rule?
Here's
Or are they still discussing all of it?
where this all starts. To have an understanding, you have to know why they were granted protection in the first place. One is war, and the other part is natural disaster. And it was always meant to be temporary, but it wasn't meant to be temporary on a whim. It was meant to be temporary with a specific expiration date. So here's what happened yesterday. The court heard what's called oral arguments, and that's when someone representing each side gets up and speaks. Now, the federal government argues that this is a matter specifically for the executive branch, and that the Immigration and Nationality Act, I should say, of 1952 effectively stripped federal courts of the power to review decisions to end temporary protected status. The plaintiffs are saying, wait a minute, this is a moral issue with serious and tangible human consequences. And they're asserting that the federal government failed to follow the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires them to consult not one, not two, but many agencies across the country about these conditions. So the justices now have to decide about that, but they also have to review allegations of racial discrimination and random decision-making. And one justice even went so far to assert that a Ouija board may have been used in the decision-making.
A Ouija board?
It's crazy. That's what she said. You might as well use a Ouija board.
Wow.
So with all that being said,
Yeah.
do we know when this is actually going to shake out?
My guess is before July 4th. They're officially saying end of June, early July, but I would think they want to get this done before America 250.
Okay. So we already kind of touched on this, but the gas
prices, they're rough.
They're really bad. But Jay, why?
So
Besides just the Strait of Hormuz being blockade.
that's one thing.
Right.
The war, we know about that. And what's troubling is when you go to a gas station and it's $3.79 a gallon, and then you go back a few days later and it's $4.99. We've seen that in Columbus. What we're going to see is as much as $6 a gallon before this is over.
What?
So supply chain logistics, time of the year, and other mitigating factors. Now, you mentioned what the war has done. Disruption in the supply flow through the Strait of Hormuz has driven the price per barrel to over $105 a barrel. That's going to go up with no end to the war in sight. Now ask me about the next thing.
Well, you said this kind of has to do with the Indiana as well.
Yeah,
Talk to us about
it's a
the
supply
regional,
chain issue.
the
So,
regional effect of all this.
Ohio and its Great Lakes neighbors fall in what industry analysts call a bottleneck. The shutdown of refineries and processing plants in St. Louis and Indiana have just limited the supply. But there's another reason.
Yeah, you said this is a bad time of year. Why?
It's always a bad time of year because we go from winter gas to summer gas.
Yep.
And that summer gas, for whatever reason, is a more expensive blend of gasoline to produce. And that's why prices are always higher from April through September historically.
And we know that some states have already taken some actions to drop that. And there are some options short term, really, that can be done. Talk about those. I mean, there's really three options.
There are a few options. One is let's suspend the state, gas tax. Now, is that going to make a huge difference? Not really. It's
I know
almost,
Georgia did that.
Yeah,
And it
it's
really
like
didn't
20
drop it at all.
cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Hey, that's
fine if
something,
we're
y'all.
at $4 a gallon, but at $6 a gallon,
Right.
not so fine. The other is they're bandying about the idea of issuing a $100 credit per driver if the price of gas exceeds $4 per gallon. So it'd be $100 each month. But again, if you think about that, that's not that much, because every time you fill up, if you've got a small car, maybe you're dropping $50. If you've got a big truck, you're dropping over $100. But the obvious choice to me would be, maybe it's time to think about opening up our national reserves. If we are able to flood the market with supply, then standard economic principles that we learned in high school, it will come down.
I keep thinking about fuel prices
Yeah.
just for airplanes. Oh my gosh, it's going to get so expensive.
Right. So we've got a little bit of time left. Really quick, let's talk. So we're back to the Ohio Supreme Court.
Yes.
They're talking about AEP Ohio. So really fast, what's going on there?
Well, it's very simple. A unanimous decision, AEP, you don't have to refund $74.5 million that you collected from 1.5 million customers to subsidize 2 aging coal plants that go back to the 1950s.
What coal plant?
So in Ohio, the coal plant is Cuyer Creek in southern Ohio, but then also Clifty Creek plant in Indiana.
Say that 3 times fast.
I will not.
So really, what does this mean for consumers? What can they do?
Well, they really can't do anything, but the more troubling thing about it is these plants have been subsidized to the tune of over $680 million historically. So if you're a consumer, all you can do is advocate for House Bill 6 to be suspended, or just sit and wait.
And we know how the House Bill 6 story keeps shaking out.
That's
Absolutely.
correct.
All right.
Jay, thank you.
Always a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Coming up
Coming up
next.
next,
Yeah, we
Jack
are talking
Pine.
with Jack Pine from the Glass Garden Fest. I see him in my screen here. We got a pretty cool interview coming up. We'll be back.
Welcome back to The Big Picture. I'm a little out of breath right now because I had 2 minutes to run back to my desk to get this beautiful pumpkin. This is Jack Pine Studios Mother's Day pumpkin.
Yeah, they're
It
so
changes
pretty.
every year. This one is like pink and purple, my favorite colors. And this is all anticipation for this weekend's Glass Garden Festival in Hocking Hills. And oh, there we go. What camera are we looking?
It's on 3. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. It kind of looks blue in this lighting, but I can't tell if it's just the monitor.
Yeah, it's the camera, but
There
it's
we
fine.
go.
There we go.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So cute. When joining us right now is Jack Pine. He has a lovely background behind him. Let's get him pulled up.
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
Hey there, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh my gosh, it
Can you
looks
hear me?
gorgeous behind you. Look at that set.
And you talk about a big deal. We got some big mushrooms for you.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
I know. Okay, so this Mother's Day pumpkin, it's already turning heads. What inspired this year's design?
Well, it's actually, for my mom. And I think about the times when she would have lilac bushes and everything else, and she loved lilac. So we just thought we would do a lilac, kind of a light purple lilac scent, and then pumpkin with some pinks, a little bit of petals and green in it. So I think it's a really nice pumpkin this year.
Okay, how do you translate scent into this pumpkin and feeling?
But yeah, scent is probably one of the strongest senses out there, and it does translate into color. In this one, you can almost smell the lilac. It's just beautiful. And rose.
Yes, I love it. I love the it's like a rose gold sheen. It's really pretty.
It is the work, and I see, the yard ornaments around you. I mean, there's so many beautiful pieces of art.
Yeah.
I love glass art. It is so pretty to me.
And Jack, do you make all these yourself?
Well, we actually have a team of glass blowers, and that's one of the things that you'll enjoy by coming down here is watching them make them right before your eyes. And it's amazing taking a hot blob of 2,000-degree molten glass, transforming it into a most gorgeous, beautiful piece right before your eyes.
And from the Glass Garden Festival this year, you are donating part of the proceeds to help seniors. What made you choose that?
Well, it's actually Meals for Wheels, or Meals on Wheels, I should say. And I just think, my mom is actually doing that right now, and she's enjoying that. I had no idea how wonderful that charity is. I mean, my gosh, to have meals brought to all these seniors' homes, and there's a lot of volunteers. It's just one of those wonderful charities that sometimes gets overlooked. I just can't speak enough about how wonderful that charity is.
Yeah, Meals on Wheels is wonderful.
They do some amazing work.
Yeah.
My grandmother used it.
They do.
And I know so many people who volunteered. I mean, it's an essential service. So
It really is.
when we talk about how this art is made, I mean, it is incredibly hands-on, and it's
hot.
beautiful, and people will have the chance to try this themselves. So for a beginner who has never touched glass blowing in their lives, what could they expect?
Well, there's going to be one of our glass blowers that will be allowing some people to access it. It's a little bit dangerous, but it's not. I mean, it's all new, different movements and everything else to try. But we also offer classes here all year round. So if they are interested in actually getting their hands on it, they can sign up for a class anytime they would like.
I've always wanted to try glass blowing.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so much fun.
Yeah, you should do it.
Okay, so for someone who's never been to the festival, what are they missing, and why should they make the trip this weekend to Hocking Hills?
Well, sure. Well, I mean, first of all, it's supposed to be a wonderful weekend, even though it's kind of chilly out today. It's supposed to warm up. It's supposed to be nice and sunny Saturday and Sunday, and we're right in the middle of the Hocking Hills. You can see the gorgeous, beautiful hills all around here, and we got incredible art, 35 other artisans that are showcasing their work, most beautiful work you can ever imagine. We got food trucks, terrific food. We got morel mushrooms for sale by a guy that sells them here. He's not going to have them very long. They really do go fast. So morel mushrooms for sale. There's also going to be live demos, of course. You get to watch the glass blowers work. And then there's going to be food and music, of course, live bluegrass the entire time. So it's going to be wonderful. It's easy to find. It's right in the middle. And you just go to jackpinestudio.com. And you'll get all the details about how to get here. There's also going to be a kids' activity booth, so it's great for the whole family.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack, for joining us today. Jack Pine with the Glass Garden Festival this weekend. So we'll have more info on our website.
Right. Coming up next, Doug Petcash joins us along with a political science professor from Bowling Green State University. We're talking about the primary on Tuesday. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Big Picture. It is 9:30 on your Thursday, and we are talking primary election season. Doug Petcash joining us now. We are also joined by Associate Professor of Political Science at Bowling Green State University, Dr. Nicole Califf-Hughes. Dr. Hughes, thanks so much for joining us on this Thursday, and Doug, thank you as well.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Califf-Hughes, talk to us a little bit about, what are some of the big drivers of this primary? We see a lot of candidates talking about a lot of different things, especially cost, as it always is in the elections, but we're also talking about some more niche things. We're talking about data centers as well.
So yeah, there's a couple things I think that are really going to drive Ohio voters to the polls. And some of these are going to just be echoed nationwide as well. So I think you're looking at affordability, cost, what people are seeing when they go to the grocery store, but also what people are seeing at the gas pumps. Those are going to drive people to the polls right now. How much difference that is going to make in the kind of immediate future remains to be seen. This is a primary election. I think this is going to play a much bigger role in November, but you are going to see a little bit of that, I think, driving people. Then you're also going to see more local things like data centers. And I think even if that's not on the ballot right now, there is a large effort to get a ballot initiative on the November ballot that would actually ban data centers producing a certain amount of energy. And so that's in the signature gathering phase right now. But I think you're going to see a lot of issues like that kind of pushing people to the polls and just increasing the general political awareness of Ohio voters.
When we look at the primary, there aren't a whole lot of contested races, but there really is a lot of focus on the U.S. Senate race right now, Dr. Califf-Hughes, and we're starting to see more in line of with spending, where we saw Senator John Husted receive he didn't receive it, but the Senate Leadership Fund PAC is going to be putting $79 million to support him. Are you expecting that race to be anywhere near as expensive as the Marino v. Sherrod Brown race in 2024?
Probably. The Marino-Sherrod Brown race in 2024 was, I think, the most expensive U.S. Senate race in history. Mm-hmm. And my guess is we're going to be back there again in the fall, partly because the Senate appears to be in play for both parties in a way that we may not have expected 2 years ago. And so races that are competitive, which Ohio's race is going to be competitive, I think is really going to see a lot of influx of campaign funds from within Ohio, but from nationwide groups and people from outside Ohio as well. And so I think we're going to see spending start to ramp up and then really come into play over the summer and into November, because it's going to be a very competitive race.
And for someone who only votes in general elections, what are they missing by skipping the primary?
So some of it's just going to depend on where they live. So I love voting. I think voting is great. Everyone should vote. But the primary is going to give you, for these large races, so this U.S. Senate race, Secretary of State, Governor, it's going to give you the ability to choose the candidates for the general election. And that's important because you want to have candidates that you're excited about. And so if you can get those people onto the general ballot, you'll have even more of a say in what Ohio politics looks like. But then at the more local level, the May election, that's coming up in less than a week, is, for depending on where you live, is going to have school levies on it. There's going to be other local levies or local issues on the ballot. And by not voting, you miss the opportunity to weigh in entirely on those. So while a lot of the focus, especially at the state level, is these large primaries for these big statewide offices and for U.S. Senate that we're going to vote on in the fall, at the most local level, it's a lot of the stuff that affects the average Ohioan on a day-to-day basis far more than the primary. So these are actually the primary for governor. So these are going to actually be really important local issues that people are missing out on. And so I think everyone should go and vote, because it's these things that you really get a chance to weigh in on.
And switching gears kind of over to that gubernatorial race, obviously for the Democrats, it's just Amy Acton on the ticket. But for the Republicans, you've got Vivek Ramaswamy, who has basically the blessing of the presidential administration. Then you've got Casey Poosh from Toledo, and then a maybe from Heather Hill, depending on what comes out of the Supreme Court ruling. If she's allowed back on the ballot for Tuesday, will that change anything at all, do you think?
My guess is no. My guess is that we're so far down the pipeline now that whether Hill is on the ballot is really not going to make much of a difference in the outcome. The people that have gotten the most attention, right, Amy Acton and Vivek Ramaswamy, those are likely going to emerge as the front runners. But it is possible, right? There are, if people who vote in a libertarian primary, there are libertarian candidates. Casey Push, I mean, he could siphon voters away, right, from Ramaswamy if people are passionate about his campaign. Ramaswamy does have the presidential endorsement, which is unique because it came so early, right? It came way before the primary election and way before those endorsements typically would come. Usually they will wait till after the primary before giving an endorsement. So that it came pretty darn early there. But I think what makes not necessarily the primaries, but the election so interesting here is that the major candidates, right, Amy Acton and Vivek Ramaswamy, are not traditional candidates. Women are not historically the top of the gubernatorial ticket all that often. They're becoming more so, but it's just not as common if you look at US history. And we have a minority male candidate, and that's also rare. And so the two frontrunners, not to discount Casey Push's campaign, are non-traditional candidates from a race, ethnicity, and gender perspective, and even from a religious perspective. And I think that makes the contest really interesting.
And more in your area of the state, in Northwest Ohio, we're watching here as we get closer to our election coverage, the District 9 race, which is Marcy Kaptur's seat. She's held that for 44 years, I believe now, since 42 years since 1984. It's a Republican-leaning district, and she's got it's going to be a competitive race likely for her. It was tight the last time. What are you watching in particular with that race? I believe there are 5 Republicans in the primary for District 9 as well.
So this is a really interesting one. So, right, she is the longest serving woman in the House of Representatives. She's been in office for a really long time. And historically, she has garnered bipartisan support. This has been a Republican-leaning district since we redrew the lines 4 years ago. As things have shifted around, it has become significantly more Republican-leaning. But she was still reelected in 2022 and in 2024, though by an increasingly smaller margin. And I think what we're going to see here is it's really going to be a function of who emerges from the Republican primary. You have a lot of candidates in the primary, 2 or 3 of which, probably 2, who are really competitive in the primary. So I think that depending on which candidate emerges from that will shape Kaptur's campaign, but is also going to shape fundraising. And I think that's another race where you are going to see it become a tremendously expensive race as we get closer to November.
And we're hearing a lot from area communities here in Central Ohio about levy fatigue. Why do you feel like these communities are experiencing that?
So levy fatigue is going to be primarily for school levies is going to be a function of Ohio's school funding model. Ohio has historically struggled with funding public education. If you think back, right, it's been declared unconstitutional multiple times. There have been different efforts to fix it, but nothing that has actually solved the problem. And what that does is it turns the responsibilities over onto the local communities to fund their schools through levies. Levies are not popular broadly with the public because it costs money. And even if we recognize the benefits of a quality public education system and right, the public good of that, most of us aren't super pumped to pay higher taxes. However, we have to have schools. And there's no real other option for funding schools right now other than school levies. And so this is kind of change that has to come from the state. And it has been a real struggle. And there have been different efforts to make these changes. But as long as schools need to, pay for things like buildings, keeping the lights on, teachers, custodial staff, and then the extracurriculars that are really popular with the community, sports, music, all of that kind of stuff, it's going to fall on levies. And it's going to take increasing levies to keep the schools open. And because when a levy doesn't pass, it doesn't mean the need for the money goes away. So it's back on the ballot the next time. And it creates kind of a cycle of levy after levy after levy that voters don't like, but voting no or opting not to vote doesn't solve the problem that started it, which is schools need to keep the lights on.
And we're going to be talking about one of those in here in Central Ohio coming up in just a minute. It's the Pickerington income tax levy that's going to be on the ballot May 5th. And get into those details. But Dr. Caleb Hughes, I want to say ahead of time, thank you also, because you're going to be part of our massive election night coverage here, where we're going to be broadcasting to the Columbus market, the Cleveland market, the Toledo market, all from our location here in Columbus. And you were with me in the last election, and appreciate you coming in for Tuesday as well. We'll be talking to you just like we have been right here. We always appreciate your expertise.
I'm happy to come in. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Caleb Hughes, thank you once again. All right, Doug, let's talk about some of these races back here at home, because we've talked about the gubernatorial race, the Senate race, so these widespread ones, but there's a lot that you're going to see on your ballot that's so localized and isolated.
And they matter.
They do matter, and you heard Dr. Caleb Hughes say it. I've talked with Franklin County Board of Elections Executive Director Antone White. He says primary elections are really important, especially because of these local issues. Voters in Columbus have one that's coming up. It's for it's the Columbus Community Crisis Response Amendment. It's issue 5 on the ballot for Columbus voters, and this is one that is about responding to mental health, behavioral health crises in the city. Who responds to them? Is it going to be trained clinicians, peer support groups, or peer support members, trained social workers who can go to handle these calls? And this would all be coordinated through 911. So these would be dispatched through 911. And these trained people would then be the ones who are sent out to deal with these mental or behavioral health crises, such as could be a substance use issue that's going on. It could be someone having a breakdown of some sort. It could be a homeless person with an issue. And I talked with Council President, Columbus City Council President Shannon Hardin the other day, and he put it this way. He's like, when people are dealing with a break-in at their home, they want the police to be there. If they have a fire at their house, they want the fire department to be there. But if grandma who has dementia is having a serious issue with a relative over their illness or medication, you want a trained professional clinician or social worker to be there to respond. So this is going to be on the ballot. For early voters, it's on the ballot already, of course, but on May 5th, this is what's being decided. And what this is doing is this would codify this into Columbus City Code. So basically, it would make it city law that this service would have to be provided. And that's what people are deciding right now. The Columbus Safety Collective was really behind this effort. And they say that they, on their petitions to basically, ask the city to put this on the ballot, about 30,000 people signed it. So now the people of Columbus are going to get the choice on this.
All right. Hey, Doug, real quick, we're going to break away for a second. We need to get over to the courthouse. Right now, Brian Steele, the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, is talking with an update on that.
It is what it is. It happened. I know the officers were upset. Someone will figure that out. There was a miscommunication, again, and to the fire department, they might not have known. I guarantee they didn't know. And their job is, hey, let's find what hospital is closest. There's a lot that goes behind that. So I'm not upset with anyone. It just is what it is. But hopefully moving forward, we can learn from it and maybe do better next time.
Was there any run-in between CPD and the officer's family and the suspect's family?
Not that I know of, but it was very chaotic last night at Grant. And obviously it's a super busy hospital. They're dealing with so much trauma, and now all of a sudden officers are running in, literally carrying an officer. But I can't speak more highly for Grant. I appreciate all you. Always ready for questioning. If I hear anything else, I'll let you know. Thank you so much, everybody.
So that is Fraternal Order of Police President Brian Steele. That is the end of a news conference that started just moments ago. So we did get an update in that, kind of looking at what was in here. That officer was shot twice, was hit in the femoral artery. So it's been about 3 to 6 hours in surgery, but is in stable condition. That officer was on the force only for 2 to 3 years.
I did.
And so that's what we do know. Yes, in stable condition. Yeah. So obviously that is a story that we're going to continue following throughout the day. So,
yeah. Okay.
All right, sorry for...
And good to hear that he's come out of surgery and is recovering.
Absolutely.
So very happy to hear that.
Okay, Doug, let's talk about the Pickerington income tax levy as well. This is another hot
topic.
Can
I add one thing real quick on the Columbus, on the Columbus Crisis Response Amendment is that people are not voting for a tax levy or an increase in this case. This is simply about making this city law that Council President Hardin said that the city already has $7 million in the budget for this type of response, and then they'll be adding to this over the next months and then have it fully implemented in February of 2028 if voters approve it.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people think when they see anything on the ballot, it's just going to make their taxes go up. You
Exactly.
know? So
It's true,
thank you for saying that. Okay, so the Pickerington income tax levy.
Yeah.
Break this down simply for us. Why is this such an important issue on the ballot?
Okay, first of all, the Pickerington School Board, the Board of Education, is asking voters to approve a 1.25% income tax increase to support the schools. This would be for operations as well as, they say, future financial stability. The district's chief financial officer says they basically don't have the ability right now to cut their way out of this problem, the financial situation, so they need more revenue. This would be, as I mentioned, 1.25% local income tax increase. It would not tax Social Security income. So they are trying to protect, older folks in the neighborhood. That would not be taxed. Over the past 4 years, the district says that they've experienced deficit spending and that they're projected to reach a negative cash balance by fiscal year 2028 if they don't get this money. Now, the board also acknowledged in a news release a few months ago that this is a huge ask for the community. They realize that, but they just say that with, it's basically the issues are increasing enrollment. It's a fast-growing school district. Inflation, staffing costs, and growing student needs. And about 84% of their budget goes to support personnel. So teachers, custodians, support staff, bus drivers, that sort of thing. So that's what they're asking for right now.
And definitely, like the Bowling Green professor just explained, people are feeling levy fatigue, but really passing levies and income tax increases, it's only weighed right now to support local schools.
They do partly blame
Yeah.
the state for, the changes in funding that the state legislature has been putting through as to part of the problem here, but also they list those other issues too: inflation, increasing student enrollment, teacher needs, student needs, and salaries.
Okay, Doug, thank you.
You're welcome.
What do people need to know about Election Day coverage with you?
It's going to be awesome.
Okay. I love it.
Of course.
No, we've got a big team
Yeah.
that's going to be, of course, all of our reporters. We're going to be covering the big races with the gubernatorial race, the Senate race, also local issues. And we have a team, as I mentioned earlier with when Dr. Caleb Hughes was with us, we've got folks, very talented people from our sister stations who are going to be here joining us from WKYC in Cleveland, WTOL in Toledo. So we're going to be reaching a large chunk of Ohio from 7 to 11 on election night right here in the podcast studio. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have reporters all out in the field as well. Up to the minute results. We've got our touch screen ready to go so we can break down where the numbers are coming in and who's leading in those primaries. And we'll be checking on the local races on the 15s as well. So 15 and 45, we'll really be looking into the numbers for the local races, such as Pickerington, such as Columbus here in our area.
All right, Doug Beck-Cash, thanks for coming on.
This is my first time.
Woohoo!
It was fun. And I want to go back to your last segment. I got the blow glass. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, I want to do it so bad.
Find a place to do it.
So coming up next, we are continuing talking about the economy and things that like that, because just about an hour ago, the new GDP report dropped.
Just got released.
Dr. Jared Penson from Cedarville University joins us next.
Welcome back to The Big Picture. We have Dr. Jared Pinson with Cedarville University. He's an economics professor joining us again today. Jared, thank you for being here again.
It's great to be here once again.
We love having you. Well, the GDP report just dropped about a little bit over an hour ago. Yep. I know you went through it. What are your initial thoughts?
It was kind of status quo. It was a little bit under consensus, but it was almost in the middle of where everybody thought it would be. The high end was 2.5%, 3% growth. The low end was around 1%. And it came in right at 2%. So it was almost kind of pitch perfect where people thought.
Are we seeing signs of a stabilizing economy, or is it bouncing back? What do you think?
So part of the growth rate was the bounce back from the government shutdown. We had a big government drag in the fourth quarter of last year, and that bounced back in the first quarter. We had a big increase in investment spending. And here in Ohio, we can think of it as the data center boom. One of the weaknesses, though, and what was concerning was spending on goods, non-durable and durable goods, was either flat or negative. So the consumer was buoyed by service spending. And that was a bit of a weakness there.
So does that mean Americans are kind of, spending less and then holding up the economy?
Well, consumers are spending more. They're just, it's mainly in services. The worry here is that inflation will start eating away at the ability for consumers moving forward. Now, the inflation numbers did come in as expected, but that was also looking backwards, not looking forward. As we know, inflation will be higher this month in April and probably higher in May as well, given some change in the Middle East. So backward looking, inflation numbers were fine, but moving forward, that's a bit of a concern, and that will drag on consumers.
So do you feel like this report makes a stronger case for inflation rates to stay steady?
Inflation or interest rates? Sorry.
Interest rates, excuse me, sorry.
No, I think the Federal Reserve made the right call this week with keeping interest rates where they were. They don't want to overreact to prices going up because of the oil shock. The last time they did that, which was in 2007, 2008, was a really large mistake. So holding rates steady was good. The good thing with the report, we had a big increase in investment, and that's a tailwind for the economy. So moving forward, that should help the growth rate.
Okay, so do you have any questions?
So, I mean, obviously, these reports typically look backward, and it's probably way too soon to know exactly the full effects of this, but the war in Iran, what kind of effects could we expect to see in the coming reports? And I mean, were there any reflections of those actions in this past report?
There were some reflections only in the increase in prices that we started to see in March. But moving forward, there's two things that could happen. If inflation continues to stay elevated, that will drag on consumer spending. But what we didn't see in this report, but we should see moving forward, is increased defense spending, which will increase the government part of GDP. So how that balances out is unclear at this point. But those are the two areas that we would expect to be hit.
So if you could describe the economy right now, would you say this report describes it as resilient or fragile?
I think it's resilient at this point. We had a reasonable jobs number recently. Now we have another jobs number coming out relatively soon. But there's not a cause of alarm. There's just some cracks there. I wouldn't say it's a solid economy. I say it's resilient. I think that's a good word.
Okay. Dr. Jared Pinson with Cedarville University. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. Let's take a quick break, Collin.
Yep, we'll be right back.
right. So we are talking about Windsor taking on NYC now. First they were in DC, now they're in NYC.
Just
their
making
tour.
the country tour.
They're making their rounds.
Or at least to the East Coast.
Right. Well, yesterday was a really, really special day. They stopped by the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. And Collin, I know we were just reflecting. We've both been there. The way that memorial propels you into what that moment was like for the families and the victims, it's hard to put into words.
If you've never had the chance to go, if you have no other reason to go to New York City,
go because of that.
You have to go. I mean, it is one of the most powerful memorials, museums, because the museum that's attached to it as well is one of. It's incredibly powerful.
Oh my goodness!
And
you hear really, you hear the voicemails.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And as someone who has spent their entire life in the Midwest, I mean, we were removed from it. I mean, obviously, we remember the impacts and the days and months following that, but it brings on an incredibly different feeling.
I mean,
being there and standing in that spot and seeing all of that presentation there.
Yeah, so it's amazing that they got to visit that and have a moment of silence, you know. Also, Camilla, she went to the New York City Public Library and she spoke a little bit. I don't know if we have time to play her. So let's play it.
Indeed, the first Americans I knew and loved were the characters I met in my treasured childhood novels. Little Women, What Katie Did, Charlotte's Web. I knew even then that books are the best friends you can have, in good times and in bad. Of many of us have long suspected, books really are good for us. They also have a magic way of bringing people together with their ability to transcend any barrier.
Okay, so that was for a literacy event happening there at the public library. And Sarah Jessica Parker was there as well, walking with Camilla. I don't really know how she was looped into it, but I saw the video and I was like, that woman, she's all around New York City.
Yeah.
She really is Carrie Bradshaw.
She's Carrie Bradshaw.
It's amazing. But let's end today on a very happy note. Oh, look at these NICU babies. They
all dressed
are
up for the Cavs.
I know. We can see little James Harden right there.
Yeah.
And then Moondoggy.
Yeah. Somebody made the beard.
It's so funny. It is so cute for the Cavs playoffs. So just adorable.
Yeah.
We wanted to
because what the
end on a
Cavs play
happy
again
note.
Toronto tonight. No, they just finished Toronto.
Yeah,
they do play.
Who do they play Toronto again?
It's back in Toronto. So yes, I think they play Toronto again.
Yeah.
I know I
you know
talked
what?
about it.
We don't have
we're
Tyvus today.
Right. We'll talk about it tomorrow because that game is tonight.
Yeah.
So
and
all
I'll
right.
be off for a little while. I'm not going anywhere permanently.
Yeah, she'll be
but
back.
I'll be back. But thanks for everything. Have a great day.